Hello. Okay. Happy Thursday. Good evening. I hope all is well. Hope everybody had a very nice day and is doing well. For those of you who are new to the group, I am the group moderator. My name is Imari Ventura Rochez. I am a New York and Connecticut licensed speech and language pathologist. I have been for 10 years. I am a school administrator. I am the owner and director of Communication Resources, and I am in charge of this group. So I hope you're doing well. Please, if you're watching the replay, like and share the group with your friends, share the group with your mom friends, share the group with whoever you know who could use support and study and self-reflection. Okay, so tonight is the second night of our autism parenting series, which I am so excited about. I had really good feedback on this last week, and I'm really enjoying this book. I don't know about you, but I'm really enjoying this book. So we are, after tonight, we're halfway through. Tonight I'll be covering chapters 3 and 4. And it's not too late, right? So if you just joined this group this week, you can still order this book. Please go into the posts, look at the places that I've listed where you can find it. You can get it new on Amazon, perhaps even used, and you can get it used in some other places. The title is The Autism Mom's Survival Guide by Susan Senator. And if you are watching the replay months and months after this has been recorded, please do go through the whole series. Go to media, watch the covering, each of the chapters, download the self-reflection questions, and really sit in the content of this book because it is so good. I'm learning so much. So let's jump in. Chapter 3 is entitled Spending Time with Our Kids and Enjoying It. And so I really like this chapter because all parents, right, with kids with special needs and not, all parents should be enjoying time with their kids. I think that we don't necessarily understand that enjoy is subjective, and how much and how often is also a personal choice. But enjoying our time with our kids is important. So Susan Senator speaks as a mom of a child with autism, right? Nat is her son, Ned is her husband. She has 2 other children also. We don't hear about them that much, but we do hear about them in the context of the family, and how she does spend time with them. And we learn about them in this chapter as well. And so she starts off by letting us know that she does, right? When the kids were little, when Nat was small, she certainly did play with him. She spent a lot of time with him. Her son asked, can you play? Can you hang out with us? And she said yes. But then she also felt a lot of gratitude and appreciation with play in the times that they played together, but also in the times that she was her own individual, and she said, now that's enough, right? And separated from the play. And she said that that was really good for them, and she described that it helped to strengthen their struggle muscle, right? Because they want mom all the time, but that helped them to realize mom is a separate person. She's not one of our friends, and she has limits, and she has likes and dislikes, and they were able to recognize her as her own individual when she put boundaries around the amount of play that she enjoyed with them. And so we know that boundaries are important with small children, with special needs and without, right? The first question that I ask in my reflection questions are, when Susan refers to the struggle muscle, she refers to that and explains that not giving her kids everything that they want when they want it. As parents, we know that cultivating a sense of delayed gratification is healthy for children because it teaches them self-control and patience. Considering your child's developmental challenges, do you feel that it's necessary to develop the struggle muscle in them, right? And so I think that there might be mixed answers on that, because some parents may feel that their children struggle enough as a function of their special need, and so they don't want them to struggle anymore. And some parents may feel, no, you have to learn how to wait. No, you have to learn how to delay gratification. And so I think it's something, as we work through this book and analyze our own parenting styles, I think it's important to think about this question, because it reflects a value system that you have, and it reflects the thought that you have about your child's capacity. So it's important. She goes through and she interviews moms in chapter 3, and talks about the different things that different moms say they like to do, right, with their children. Some kids, it's reported that some kids like to jump on the trampoline, ride their bikes, slide down big inflatable slides, right, and have fun. And Susan, all in all, says our children deserve a childhood. And I would certainly agree, right? Children with special needs and with not, neurotypical, neurodivergent, all deserve fun and all deserve a childhood. And I believe that more and more places are becoming inclusive to help, right? So when my daughter was young, we did swimming classes, and I did see a child on the spectrum who had really adverse sensory reactions to the water and to the cap, the swim cap. And so I do believe that, and so he was unenrolled. His mom took him out of the class, right? But he should be able to learn aquatics. He should be able to go to have that experience. So I do believe that more and more places are becoming inclusive of the needs of different children. And I would encourage you to look up what is in your neighborhood. And like I said about the sensory inclusive haircuts, if it doesn't exist in your town, your city, your neighborhood, recommend it, right? It might not happen this year, but it might happen next year or in 3 or 5 years. So please bring awareness in your town about what is needed. And I just took a course on ASD, working with ASD families, and the stats for 2018 were 1 in every 44 kids will be diagnosed with ASD. So please do, because the number is increasing. And so she continues to ask moms their different perspectives about taking their children out, planning, having fun with them. And one mom, I thought it was interesting, said that her son overall had a very calm temperament. He didn't experience meltdowns or tantrums, but this mother in particular had anxiety all the time, because she thought, what if he snaps? He's so good. What if he snaps? What if this goes wrong? Have you ever felt like that? And so I think when and I will get into this today and tomorrow during my announcement, we can't let our emotions consume us, right? Because she says that he's such a good kid, and that when everything turns out fine, everybody in the family gives each other a high five because it all went well, right? And so sometimes we can forfeit our joy in the moment because we're so worried about something happening, and just really in our emotions about what's going on. So there are suggestions also about different things that you can do with your children, and these, most definitely go across the gamut of price. So I would say, we're all different types of families in this group. We have some high income, right? Middle income, low income. There's moms who stay at home, work from home. There's some spouses who work together to make ends meet. There are some single parents who do their best and manage the money as best as they can. So we're mixed here. And I would say that taking your kids out, having fun, going on trips and adventures, that's all determined, right, with your budget. And so in the book, some parents talk about going to Disney World, and that's, I would consider that a really high-end adventure. But then also things like going to the playground, which I love. That is one of my favorite things to do, is go to the playground with my kids. Especially, I haven't seen it so much in Connecticut, but in New York City, in the summertime, every playground turns on their sprinklers, and it's just hot child in the city. It's so much fun. So there are always options. Money doesn't have to be a limitation. You can pack sandwiches and go to the park. There's always something to do. Some parents have extra help. Sometimes they have additional family members who can help. Some parents in this book who were interviewed reported having an au pair or a nanny, right? And so we all don't have the means to have that. But I do want to recommend for families, and I recommended to a family this week, that you go to the state office of people with disabilities where you live, right? So in New York, it's OPWDD. In Connecticut, I did forget the name, but I've seen it before. So in all of our wonderful 50 states, every state has an office that is a state level agency, right? That is responsible for providing resources to individuals with disabilities. And so some of those resources for children may be respite, right? So that mom and dad get a break. Might be camp, right? So that mom and dad get a break. Might be a home attendant, right? So that mom and dad can have help in the house. And sometimes home attendant will take a walk with the child. So there's a lot of options. And if you reach out to me, I can be of particular and specific guidance with those things. So I want you to know, once again, income doesn't have to be, money doesn't have to be the limitation to get what you need for your child with a disability. There's always a way around it, right? And so she made a really good point. I'm going to read verbatim. I really like this because oftentimes we speak about, especially in the schools and with professionals, sometimes the child with autism is spoken about as an individual, right? But the truth is that they come from a family. They have a community. And so I like how Susan wrote this right here. So she says, all of our family members play a role in the family's happiness. All can do something to improve things one way or another. Kathy, that's one of the moms she interviews, keeps in mind that the dynamics among her children are key to their happiness. The kids are a gift to one another, right? So if you have multiple children, remember that the family dynamic really plays an important role in the household, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be just the child on the spectrum. It's all of them and how they all react with each other. Because with or without a disability, siblings will always fight, right? Siblings will always compete. Siblings will bond, right? So some of these things are by default. And so it's important. There was another reference that she made, I think in chapter 2, that the family doesn't have to be defined by the diagnosis, right? Again, the family doesn't have to be defined by the diagnosis, meaning that you don't have to be an autism family only. That's just a piece of the family's identity. You could be a family who vacations, a family who loves sports. We're a soccer family, right? We're a family who support each other. We're a celebrating family. Anything there is to celebrate, we celebrate. We celebrate birthdays, we celebrate graduations, we celebrate report cards. We're a celebratory family. So the diagnosis doesn't identify the family, it's just a part of it. Just like your child is your child in isolation is more than just a diagnosis, right? They're part of a family, they're part of a community, and there are different dynamics in the family that they are very much important and a part of. So I liked her point about getting additional childcare with autism, and I would suggest that people do that if you can, and if you can't, there are ways. Just reach out to me. There was an interesting description here. She interviewed a mother. Her name is Heather, and the mother really the imagery that she gave was really visceral to me. She says, Heather is the mother of Liam, nearly 5. She describes her typical state of mind this way. It's like being a rubber band stretched to capacity and having someone come over and pluck it. Even so, she has found that long trips work for them because they expose Liam to vacations early in life, right? So feeling mentally like a rubber band that's being stretched, that just sounds unnerving to me. Right? It sounds extremely uncomfortable, and like she probably always feels on edge. And so these are real emotions, right? This book is highlighting real emotions that I know many of us connect with and relate with, and so I'm glad to read it out loud so that we can get a bigger perspective. So this chapter doesn't only talk about travel and trips as having fun with our kids, right? They also talk about different activities that you could do at home. And when many of you joined this group, you checked off the box that you would like to learn about activities to do with your children. And so she goes ahead and she talks about the crisis stories that they write and how that really takes up a lot of time and is very helpful for Nat and getting him to express himself. She talks about, she interviews a mom who likes to bake with her Spectrum-y child, and they make cookies, right? And this is like a very made up recipe, but it's fun and they like it, and so that's all that matters. I thought something that was really nice and really interesting, and that you would probably like to incorporate in your household is implementing a family fun day, that kids have fun outside of the house. And so I thought that was really nice. If your budget really keeps you at home most often with your kids, it might be nice every month or every other month to schedule something outside. I also encourage a lot of you that when that's the issue, when the budget's the issue, that you look for free activities. Now the caveat with that is that free activities often get really crowded, right? And it might not be the ideal place for a child with severe sensory needs and triggers. However, you could get there early, and it could be a really fun time. So happiness with the kids can be small, right? Close at hand, simple and straightforward. Sometimes all that's required is a little risk-taking and letting go. Sometimes it's only about noticing and being satisfied with a small triumph. So throughout this chapter, she speaks about different things you can do, lots of tips, and interviews moms on what are their favorite activities to do and road trips and all that. But like I said before, it can be simple. It can be straightforward. It doesn't have to be glamorous and expensive. It doesn't have to be a fuss, right? So I'm going to go to the end of this chapter, which I thought was great. And so let me read the question that I wrote about it, because I think that Susan's mindset, when they took the trip to Colorado, I think her mindset is one of perseverance and endurance. And I do believe that autism parents have to obtain this mindset to get through. So towards the end of chapter 3, Susan's family takes a trip to Colorado, right? Susan, Ned, her husband, and the other kids, they're going to a special, I think they were going to ski, but they left Nat at a special camp. Susan and her husband persevered in executing their plans to take this trip. So quite a number of things came up that really deterred and discouraged them. But Susan said, no, we're going on this trip. Despite initial feelings of doubt and regret, they were glad that they had planned the trip the way that they did. Susan explains that including the adults' needs into the plans through small changes helped to bring balance, peace, and relaxation. Again, Susan explains that including the adults' plans brought balance, peace, and relaxation. So my question to you is, what small changes can you make so that your needs are prioritized, right? I think that was really powerful. Going on a family trip and leaving your child with special needs behind could really break up a lot of parents, right? And she explains that she missed him so much. She loves him so much. She called the camp to make sure that he was okay and everything was fine, but she was just nervous. But they settled into their emotions and they kept going. Really, there were no difficult behaviors. Everything was okay. When they got back to the camp to pick him up, he was ziplining. But I want to focus just a moment on the preparation for the trip. So she says, I persevered with our plans, and Ned was okay with this too. As we went over all the potential problems and our proposed solutions to them, such as long lines at the airport, we would do a crisis story, tantrums on the plane, our doctor prescribed a last resort mild sedative for Nat, and so forth. We really wanted to try this trip. And so really there was a determination that she had to go. In my notes, I wrote, wow, how stressful. Because it sounds like so much to do just to take a trip, right? And it sounds like a lot of pushing through adversity and a lot of foresight and planning to go on a trip. But we have to remember, family vacations are so important. And every family should take a vacation at least once a year together. Every nuclear family unit should take a vacation together at least once a year, because it helps them to bond, to be vulnerable, to share, and to grow, right? And so really, we can consider this, that Susan is fighting for her family, fighting to keep them united, fighting to prioritize their needs. As families, we all have roles and responsibilities. Mom and dad may work, kids have to go to school, right? And continue with the rigor of their education. And so vacations are important because we get to step away from our responsibilities for a little bit, and we get to kind of relieve our stress. So it's extremely important for our mental health and our emotional health. And being together as a family unit really helps us to comfort one another, to feel safe and to feel happy. And Susan knows all this, and she knows the importance and the value of that family trip. And Nat wasn't going to be able to really hang out on this type of trip that they did, because it sounds like, um, she doesn't really say what they were doing in Colorado, but it wasn't going to be appropriate for him and the other for him and the siblings. So she just took her other boys, but she knew that. Also, I'll say, and some of you could probably confirm this. She has other kids, right? She has boys, two other boys, I believe, in addition to Nat. He's the oldest. So those other boys need attention too. And probably in the household, Nat gets a lot of attention because of his needs, and the other boys may not be able to bond in the same way, because a lot of attention is diverted to their older brother. So being able to have that trip, I mean, as I think about it, is so valuable. And Susan and Ned, right? They really had to fight to make it happen, to keep that family unit tight. They really had to endure to make sure that that happened. And so I think in one way or another, all of us are fighting for our families. I think that especially when you have a child on the spectrum, a child with ASD, you make plans and provisions, right? And you do so much to make sure that they have what they need in terms of the right program, the right therapies, right? And that everything is set up and on track with their IEP, and that everybody's communicating, everything to do with their education, right? But that's just one piece. There's still the family unit, and to make sure that everybody's needs are met emotionally and psychologically. And so as parents doing all of that, we really are battling, because things come in the way of that. But we really are working hard to make sure that the family unit stays tight and together, that everybody's needs are met, and that everybody's happy, right? I remember I had my daughter, and you have little babies and you take them to the pediatrician like a couple times in the first month. And I remember I asked my pediatrician, how are you? How's your family? And she said, everybody's good. Everybody's happy. And I think as moms, that's our biggest priority, to make sure that everybody's happy. But when we're happy too, right, we're able to make other people happy. And so Susan says that there was so much balance, peace, and relaxation. Balance, I want to focus on balance, because that segues us into chapter 4. They were able to attain balance because they made some slight changes that allowed the adults' plans to be present in the vacation. And so that is extremely important, because as moms and dads, our cup becomes empty. We get depleted, right? And a vacation, which sometimes we can only take it once a year because of our jobs, and sometimes we can only take it once a year because it's expensive if we save up for that one big trip, that making it 100% kid-centric doesn't allow for balance. So that balance piece is really important. And the subtitle for this book, right, which is in the circle, is Creating a Balanced and Happy Life While Raising a Child with Autism. And I am almost certain that the balance happens because we are able to attend to our children, right? Essentially make sure that everybody's happy, that everybody's needs are met, including our own, right? Making our own needs a priority. And so that leads us into chapter 4, which is entitled Me, Myself, and I, right? You guys know that song from Beyonce? Okay, so Me, Myself, and I. This was a really good chapter. I liked it a lot because it spoke about why self-care is essential. And so that's like the topic of the 2020s, right? The self-care. And so self-care is not selfish. I think that's like the subtitle of that for the decade. Self-care is not selfish. And it's really not. So it's important. And I'll go back to the analogy with the cup. If you're a depleted cup, who are you pouring into? If you're an empty jar, who are you pouring into? We make good parents. We are good moms and we are good dads because we're filled, we're happy, and we're content. And I think that should be at the forefront of our minds in parenting. And there's so much that says the contrary. And there's sometimes it's not even safe. Sometimes you get resistance from people when you talk about how you're prioritizing yourself. You get backlash and clap back from people when you talk about how you're prioritizing your needs. But I would just say to that, ignore it, because your self-care is important. Now, all self-care is not high maintenance, right? All self-care doesn't have to be expensive and spa days and things like that, although they can be, and that's very effective and that's very nice too. But it's whatever makes you happy, enjoyed, and feeling full. I'll reveal to you what my self-care is, okay? I'll tell you one thing that I do for self-care that I enjoy very much as a mom. I try to get up 15 minutes. I try to get 15 minutes by myself in the morning. I really, really enjoy that. Before I wake up the kids for school and before the lights get on and everything gets busy, I like to sit with myself for minimum, it could be more, 15 minutes every morning. And I like to do that with my eye patches. I do. I buy big packs. I have all different types. And I really like to sit with myself for 15 minutes in my robe with my eye patches and just think and pray and reflect. It feels really good. So that is important. Okay. So let's talk about, let me refer to the questions just a bit. At the beginning of chapter 4, Susan describes how deeply impacted she was by depression. She explains that it severely skewed her perception so that she saw through, quote, a gray and dreary lens. Have you allowed your emotions to distort your perceptions? How did you break through this difficult time? And so I've referred to some of her language. However, I'd like to read that passage and speak on it. So Susan says, in a depressed state of mind, I see the happenings in my life through a gray and dreary lens. I wonder now if I was, at times, seeing Nat's behavior or affect clearly, or if I was projecting my own hopelessness onto him. And so this is tremendous. I mean, this really impacted me a lot. And it confirmed a revelation that I had about this. And so I'm going to go into this more tomorrow. If you saw my March at a glance, you would see that on the 15th of March, I have a special announcement for all of you. And I'm not going to reveal that early, but I am going to repeat myself. So Susan talks about falling into a depression very soon after receiving Nat's diagnosis. She talks about feeling isolated and abandoned, and depressed and really oppressed by sadness. And so what I have to say to that is, I get it. Be depressed. Be sad. Be angry even, but don't stay there, right? Because what happens is that when we are sad and when we are depressed, we don't see well. Just like she said, she didn't see clearly. And if we can't see clearly, we won't recognize the blessing. And by that, what do I mean? I made a post this week on joint attention and different ways that you can attain joint attention with your child. Basic OT, right? Will tell you we'll write a joint attention goal. Speech therapist will write a joint attention goal. Teacher will write a joint attention goal. It's fundamental. It's in the category with self-regulation. We need to look at the same thing at the same time in order to progress, right? It's a very subtle behavior. It's a very subtle that I wasn't able to sustain attention before. I had a fleeting eye gaze before, but now I'm doing it. When the child eventually does obtain joint attention, it like I said, it's very subtle. However, if you're wrapped up in the emotion of sadness, you won't recognize the progression. You won't see the progress. And so the lives that I've been doing on the IEP, the importance of the goals, sitting with the IEP team to prioritize the goals, reviewing them, comparing year to year to year the goals, setting goals and expectations, aligning the school goals with your home goals. All of it means nothing if you're not seeing clearly, right? And so in my question, I asked, how did you break through the difficult time? And I use the word breakthrough very intentionally because, like I said, be sad, be depressed, feel that, but don't stay there. We have to engage our emotions, meaning that we really have to feel our emotions. There comes a time where we have to rub up against the surface of our emotions and we need to break through it. Break through to get to the next level of things. And so the disability is not the issue. It's the belief about the disability, which becomes an issue and skews your mind, right? Because like I had said last week, when we read the very first chapter that's entitled, It's All How You Look at It, The Gift of Perspective, this is all about mindset. The journey of parenting a special needs child is mindset first. It's an internal work. So my question is, how did you break through that difficult time? And so I'm going to speak more on this tomorrow, but I think it's really important as we continue to recognize the grief, right? Because maternal grief is real. Susan interviewed a doctor who has done research, longitudinal research, meaning not just a year, like over 10 years of different mothers, and has recognized higher incidences of maternal grief in autism moms in particular, not dads. And I'm not saying dads are not grieved, but I'm saying higher incidences in moms. We have to recognize our emotions, engage them, and then work our way out of them. Chapter 2, Me, Myself, and I, about self-care, right? So Susan talks about her life really functioning in depression, child rearing in depression. Through all of this, she found belly dancing, which I thought was fabulous. I mean, I think of all the hobbies that a person can find, that has to be the most fun. So she found belly dancing by watching music videos with her son. She saw Shakira. If any of you remember Shakira, I don't know if she's still making music. And she liked her hip movements. She thought that Shakira's dances were inspired by belly dancing. which I do believe they are, and there's some Arab culture that is referenced in her dancing, and Susan really liked that, and so she got involved, and that became her outlet. That became her outlet, and she started to do it every night. And she would have dinner with her kids and her husband, and she would, they'd have a good time, and then they'd clean up, and then she would go to her room, and she would put on her outfit, and the way she described it, it sounded like Princess Jasmine. Do you remember Princess Jasmine from Aladdin? It sounded like that, and she really got involved, and she bought all these hip scarves, and she got big hoop earrings, and she got the cymbals, and she would belly dance in front of her sons, who got so embarrassed, and in front of her husband. And she loved it, and she kept doing that, and that made her feel good. And she took a class, and it was her one thing for herself. I know I have a lot of mom groups, and I know I have a lot of mom friends, and I have my best friend. One of my best friends is a stay-at-home mom with 3 girls, and she's very intentional about the family budget. She works with her husband. They work together to make the decisions about finances, and so she is very careful and prudent about how she spends money, and she always says, this is going to be my one mom thing. And it may be a new pair of boots or a subscription that she really wanted. And so that's kind of what Susan did. The belly dancing class was her one mom thing. And she had a lot of fun, and she met other women in the class. And what really helped her was that the women were of multiple body types, of different ages. They were diverse in their appearance, and that was really helpful to her. She then goes on to explain, to interview other moms about what their outlets were, and they varied. I mean, there were so many. Some were painters, some were scrapbookers, some were athletes, some were musicians. One mom even really liked to ride a motorcycle. Some moms with ASD kids really needed a hobby, and they picked up something that they did before they had kids, which made them feel good. That was different, right, than the belly dancing example, because it's something that they used to do. When they used to feel like themselves, they picked that up again and continued with it. She had some blogger friends who wrote to her, and they wrote about their fun lists. And so some women said, my fun lists are eating chocolate, drinking wine, taking pretty walks, reading good novels, watching sappy chick flicks, buying something for myself at Target, making love to my husband. That's important. Pray, listen to my iPod, playing with my cats, shopping. So that's so important. That's so important. Without these fun lists or hobbies, without that, where's the balance? Where's the balance? Without that, where's the balance? So a hobby is an ongoing activity that's like scheduled and programmed, and I know every Wednesday night I'm going to Zumba. I used to do that pre-pandemic. Every Wednesday night I was at Zumba. So that's a hobby. A fun list is what you write, the things that you like to do when you have moments to yourself. And so one of my questions to you is, one of the suggestions I make in the self-reflection questions is create a fun list of things you like to do or places you like to go, right? Some of us have some hidden gems that we don't tell anybody about. I know that before I got married and had kids and I was still living in New York City, I had some restaurants that I loved. There's this one place in Brooklyn I'm thinking of that I used to love to eat at. There's another place. It's a hidden gem. It's so quiet and so peace. I just felt so much peace when I was there and looked out over the park and the buildings. So what is it that makes you happy? What is it that makes you happy, that you enjoy, and that you can shift to add back into your life if you haven't already? I can't stress it enough. It's so important. We can't pour if we're empty, right? Some of us in the group are moms, but we're also leaders in our jobs. That's tremendous. To be the mom of a special needs child, giving and planning and protecting and nurturing and all the functions of a mom for a child who needs accommodations and sometimes more nurture, as well as the leader of an organization, making plans and observing and watching and writing up and being the boss. There's women like that in this group. So it's tremendous. Self-care is a priority. It's paramount. So I also ask in the self-reflection questions, define your basic self-care routine. What can you do? Defining your basic self-care routine may help with creating a balanced life and moments of happiness. Creating a balanced and happy life will make you a better person and parent. What are 3 actions that you would include in your routine? And I mean basic, right? Basic. You can always add on to that, but I'm saying basic. So when I tell you, I told you what I like to do in the morning. If I have to give you 3 very basic, waking up at minimum 15 minutes to myself, my eye patches, and my coffee in the morning, all of that is my self-care routine. What can you do to have a basic self-care routine that will help to balance your day so that when you give to your child with special needs, you are full, right? And so I'm having a lot of fun with this book. We are flying through it. There are 2 more Thursdays in March. We have the 22nd and the 29th, right? So next week, the 22nd, we will be covering chapters 4 and chapter 5. And then, next week, the 22nd, we will be covering chapters 5 and 6, okay? I'll give you the titles right now. One of them is very juicy, very spicy, and I do believe that you should be on here so that we can cover this together. So chapter 5 is improving our love lives. Susan says yes, that's important too. And chapter 6 is moving beyond you and me against the world, getting help from others. Another very, very important part of this parenting a child with special needs. So please, it's not too late to get your book. It's not a very long book, so catch up, read. This will enlighten you. This will help you make you feel good. I have an announcement. This Saturday, March 16th, is the last session of our bilingual series, Neurodivergent Bilinguals, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can get your tickets at Eventbrite. Okay, that is for Saturday. Friday, March 15th, is tomorrow. I will be making a special announcement and then promoting it thereafter. So please do look out for that, okay? And I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, if there's anything that you want to know, go through, review, talk, I am here. You can DM me, and I will set up a time. This was wonderful. I'm enjoying myself so much. Please share, write a comment. Let me know how you liked today. Get your book, and I will see you all next time. Have a very good day. night.